My dear friends, Salamun Alaikum. It's very, very good to be with you. I'm going to continue with our background discussion about the message of the Qur'an. And I just want to remind you where I left off a few weeks ago. A few weeks ago, I looked at the 5 cardinal understandings. And remember, this is my reading. This is what I extract from the Qur'an by reading it. And of course, I corroborate with what I see other students of the Qur'an, historical scholars of the Qur'an. I corroborate with what they find, but what I did is I really can vouch for these principles that I see coming out. And I'm fallible, but these are what I see right now. Now I see, first of all, 5 cardinal understandings which we must understand, embrace, and testify to. Now I've done separate videos on these, so I will just give you an update or a recap on them. The one true God with his attributes, so all hearing, all knowing, all seeing, in control of everything, knowing what goes on in the hidden recesses of our minds, knowing what goes on in the hidden recesses of the cosmos, of the universe, what goes on in the hidden recesses of the atom at a quantum level. So these are all called the ghaib. So the knower of the ghaib, knower of everything, hearer of everything, knower of the thoughts of what is in a man and a woman's mind. So that is God with all his attributes. I'm not going to take that long on all of these. I just want to quickly go through them. That there is a world beyond, that there is a world that we shall enter upon completion of our mission on this planet, on this world. That there is a final moment of judgment, that every act, every person shall be judged, and there shall be no injustice done in the least. That there is a code, that there is a kitab, a code, a scripture, a way to do things, that there is a right way to do it. God's envoys, messengers, that they are a reality, that there's a bridge between God and man. And those messengers could be angel in form or they could be human in form. God's forces of intervention, and that would be the malaika. That these are the facts or the realities that we should attest to simply by applying our logical, rational mind and by finding it in the book and by confirming it with our rational mind. Then we moved on to the cardinal practices, building the order of observance, Qiyamus Salah. Qiyam is always, Salah is always coupled with build, establish, uphold, maintain. So Qiyamus Salah. And Qiyamus Salah, I've done it many, many times, is the establishment of an order, of an infrastructure, of a connectedness, of a network, of a society, a civil contract. That is Qiyamus Salah, civil contract, which embraces the way that Allah wants the world to look like. Social investment, infaq or rizq, something that is left out. And this is, you see, in my reading of the Quran, this is completely omitted from the hadith books. Infaq or rizq, and الذين ينفقون ما رزقناهم. You know, it is so many times that simple phrase, those who invest what we materially provided to them in forms of material enrichment. Then there is social and personal and social moral refinement, ita uz-zakah, which is zakah is just another word for dignity, refinement, social uprightness. And when we say people pay their zakah, it means they allow for dignity, they allow for refinement to to happen. And if you don't pay your zakah, you destroy dignity. The Prophet came to bring dignity. You zaki him. The Prophet came to morally purify people, to bring dignity, to establish dignity amongst humanity. And that is the word zakah, globalizing best practice, itmamul hajj. That is what the Qur'an says, come together and establish Makkah as your focal point, as your point of reference, as your point of best practice. And that is where the repository of benchmark, of the best benchmarking of humanity should be located, should be lodged at the sacred point where the best of humanity could be presented or offered to the rest of humanity. Then we come to something which I have not touched upon, and in this discussion I will go there, commemorating Allah privately and publicly. You cannot tell me that you've read the Qur'an, you've recited the Qur'an, and you've not heard the word Zikr. Zikrullah, wala zikrullah akbar. When that word is replete, it's all over the Qur'an. So let us look at this. This is the other concept that we need to deal with now. So I'm just going to browse through all the material that I've already produced using AI, using my own thinking. But when I do use AI, I use it by asking very focused questions and allowing AI to produce an unbiased summary from the Qur'an. So I want to get to the cardinal practices, and of course Salah is a huge section of this. By the way, this document is available for download. I will put it up again in the summary in the video summary up on top under the video title. What do you call it? But let's get to the Zikr. So pass by all of this, bringing, that is zakah, which is moral purity, dignity, refinement. We come then to commemorating Allah publicly and privately. Zikrullah. The Arabic word zikr has several meanings depending on the context. Remembrance, first of all, mention or recollection, referring to the act of remembering or recalling something, often used in both everyday and religious contexts. But also it has a very specific meaning. The second meaning would be Islamic devotional practice. In a spiritual sense, Zikr refers to the remembrance of God through repetitive prayers, chants, and meditative recitations. For example, saying Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar. But also Zikr can mean memorization or reminder, and it can denote memorizing important texts like the Qur'an or being mindful. Right. And then also Zakr, the word Zakr can also mean a male. All right. Now let's quickly move on. In religious contexts, Zikr is a central practice in Sufism and Islamic worship, emphasizing constant awareness of God. From a purely Quranic perspective, the term Zikrullah primarily signifies the remembrance, mention, and glorification of Allah, of God, encompassing both outward verbal expression and inward mindfulness of His presence. It is a central theme in the Quran associated with worship, gratitude, spiritual purification, and divine guidance. Now, if we look at particularly the word Zikrullah, it means remembrance and awareness of Allah. Zikr involves conscious awareness of Allah in all states, reflecting on His signs, maintaining a heart connected to Him. And the verse that is relevant in that regard is those who believe and whose hearts find comfort in the remembrance of Allah, find solace, surely, In the remembrance of Allah do hearts find comfort or solace. Number 2, verbal praise and glorification, including reciting Allah's names. O you who believe, the verse says, O you who believe, remember Allah with much remembrance. Zkurullah zikran kathiran. And glorify the praises of your Lord before sunrise and before sunset. And then zikr can also be obedience and worship. Zikr is tied to salah, the Quranic recitation and the righteous actions. And establish zikr, establish salah for my zikr. Divine reminder and guidance. The Qur'an is called a zikr, meaning a reminder and the revelation. So the Qur'an itself is referred to as zikr. Indeed, it is we who send down the zikr. And indeed, we will preserve it. Protection from Satan and neglecting zikr leads to heedlessness, ghafla, which remembrance safeguards the soul. And whoever turns away from my remembrance, indeed, he will have a depressed life. Forms of zikr: general remembrance, example, reflecting on Allah's creation; structured worship, tasbih, istighfar; Quranic recitation. So in the Quran, zikrullah is a comprehensive concept that includes mindfulness of Allah in all respects, verbal glorification, obedience through worship, and Quranic guidance, protection from sin and shaitan. In the Quran, the word zikr is used multiple times to refer to the Quran itself, emphasizing its role as a divine reminder, a revelation, and a book of wisdom for humanity. Let me just quickly summarize a bit what we are talking about there. Suppose, or we know that there is a divine cosmic benefactor, a controller, a creator, a sustainer, a Rabb, a cosmic Rabb, a being that nurtures the cosmos, that enables the cosmos to grow, thrive, and for humanity to have evolved and emerged in a small little corner of that cosmos. Humanity, we've arisen there, we're there. And this being, this powerful, almighty, all-powerful, in control of everything, being knowledgeable about everything, including what goes on in our minds. He is there. Imagine, or that is the case, right? That is the case. Is such a being, we call him Allah, the one true God. We call him our Rabb. We call him Ar-Rahman, which is the cosmic benefactor, or the ultimate benefactor, or the highest benefactor. Is it not just reasonable that we should then keep this great being, this master that knows my thoughts, that knows my pain, that knows my joy? Should I not keep him in mind? Should I not? And if this being has the power to grant me good fortune or bad fortune, who is in control of my destiny really, is it not logical and reasonable that this powerful, all-controlling being should have a special place in my heart? Should I not constantly acknowledge this being, this creator, this cosmic benefactor, this almighty, supreme decider of my fate? Should I not keep him close in my heart? Should I not acknowledge him? And besides acknowledging him, should I not flatter him? Although God is in no need of flattery. But when you have a boss at work and he has your destiny in his hands, I think flattery is in order. Don't you think so? I think flattery for human beings is in order. It's something we think, like, look, I better do this. For God, there's no flattery needed. For God, we need to remind ourselves of him, of his power, of his majesty, of his supremacy, so that we, and he doesn't need it, but so that we can be reminded of our own mission, of our own duty, so that, when I say as God wills, insha'Allah, which is a zikr, which is remembering God. If I speak and I say insha'Allah, if God so wills, I've effectively incorporated God in the transaction, in the decision, in my overall calculation. And so that is why we don't flatter God by saying insha'Allah. We incorporate Him, and we admit to our fallibility, our limited nature, and we admit to His final control and say on the matter. And so, my brothers and sisters, zikrullah is absolutely critical. Now, I always say, I admire the Sufi traditions and orders. Now, for many, many years, Islam was practically outlawed. Let's take, for example, the Soviet Union, right? When Russia and all those republics surrounding Russia were officially atheist, or the official state policy was atheism. No religion was encouraged. I mean, I take any other country where religion is discouraged, like the USA, like Europe, like where Islam was discouraged. In this country, I'll give you an example of this very country, South Africa. For, I think, 200 years, there was an official law on the books when white people ruled this country back in the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s. There was a law on the statute books. There were thousands of Muslims here. They were good artisans. They were good teachers. They were good laborers. They were excellent, skilled men and women. But their religion was outlawed. Fact. Don't question it. Don't go and look it up. It's called the Plakaten in Dutch. And for 2 centuries, Islam was outlawed here where I'm sitting on this land. Islam was a crime punishable with death. How did it survive? I'll tell you how. The old Muslims who wanted to keep to the message of the Qur'an, they turned verses into little rhymes, little songs. They turned some of the messages of the Qur'an into little songs. And they used to sing it while working. And they would secretly meet each other when the master was out of sight or out of hearing distance. They would sing these little songs that glorified Allah. And I know some of these. I could sing, Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil. Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil. That's words from the Qur'an. It's like Hasbunallah. Sufficient is God for me. And He is the best of trustees. Ya Allah, Ya Latif. Yeah, that's Qur'an. Oh you who are discerning, you who are fine in your discrimination, who's excellent in your discernment. So the Zikr, this Zikr, they can kill the man. They can outlaw the religion. But as long as there is a spark of Zikr, as long as there is God on the tongue and on the heart of man and woman, the message is alive. The message is alive. And that is why I celebrate the work of our Sufi forefathers, of our founding fathers like Tuan Guru, a general, a prince, a warrior who fought the Dutch, an anti-colonial warrior in the lands of Indonesia, in the islands there, fought bravely until he was captured and then brought to this country and imprisoned for many, many years, from his heart dictated or wrote with his own hands, with very rudimentary tools, wrote out, I think, 2 or 3 Qur'ans by hand. Because the Zikr was here. And in his case, the Zikr was not here by creating these little songs of commemoration, but also the actual Zikr, namely the Qur'an, was here, was in his heart. So why the Qur'an highlights the importance of Zikr and retention. Zikr means retention, right? Retaining. It also means reminding. It also means to memorize. Why the Qur'an encourages it on every 3rd and 4th page is because that is the minimum position, that is the fallback position, is love for God, love for Allah in the heart, in the mind. And the death of religion, the death of the code, the divine code, the death of all righteousness, the death of all dignity on this planet starts with Zikr disappearing from the minds and from the hearts of people. So it dies in the heart and then it dies in the world. It dies in the heart and then it dies in the world. And that is the sad reality that we face today. We have so many Muslims in so many countries, 2 billion. They always brag, 2 billion Muslims. But of how much value is it when that commitment, when that connectedness, that attachment to the divine is not there? Let me look at the last few points that's here, and then we'll round off. The Qur'an is a reminder, and some of the verses that speak about the Qur'an, وَإِنَّهُ لَذِكْرٌ لَكَ وَلِقَوْمِكَ. And indeed, it is the Qur'an is a reminder for you and your people. Here, Zikr means the Qur'an and continuous admonition for the Prophet Muhammad. Another verse, هذا ذكر مبارك أنزلناه. This is a blessed reminder which we have sent down. The Qur'an is a Zikr. And then the Qur'an is a preserved and honored revelation. Allah describes the Qur'an as a protected, exalted Zikr. إِنَّا نَحْنُ نَزَّلْنَا الذِّكْرَ وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. This verse, indeed it is He, we who sent down the Zikr, the Qur'an, and indeed we will be its guardian. The verse confirms that the Qur'an's divine preservation and its status as Allah's eternal message. وَلَقَدْ كَتَبْنَا فِي الزَّبُورِ مِنْ بَعْدِ الذِّكْرِ. So, in previous times, the Zabur constituted that reminder. And we have already written in the Psalms after the Zikr, the original heavenly record of previous scriptures. Some scholars interpret Zikr here as a preserved tablet, Lawh al-Mahfuz. The Qur'an as a warning, فَذَكِّرْ بِالْقُرْآنِ مَنْ يَخَافُ وَعِيدٍ. So remind people by the Qur'an those who fear my warning. Here Zikr is linked to the Qur'an's role in warning people of divine punishment. The rejection of Zikr by the believers. Qur'an mentions how past nations rejected the Zikr, leading to destruction. Like what I said now, if you forget about the message, if you don't keep the message alive, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِنْ قَبْلِكَ إِلَّا رِجَالًا نُوحِي إِلَيْهِمْ فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. And we did not send before you except men whom we revealed scripture. So ask the people of the Zikr, earlier scriptures, if you do not know. So in summary, I would say Zikr is about keeping alive the idea of a divine supreme creator, making that idea alive and living in your heart. And as long as that idea lives there, it will live in society. But also Zikr, as was often mistaken with the word taqwa, it leads to moderation. It leads to temperance. It leads to, what is the word? To restraint. No heart that is filled with humility towards Almighty Allah and whose heart is apprehensive of the moment of judgment to come one day will act out of control, will allow that person, that body, to act viciously, indulgently. And so zikr has a moderating effect on the person who carries that zikr in his heart. My brothers and sisters, I've just finished another aspect of the practices that makes up a proper mu'min as I see it from the Qur'an. You may download it. It's there in the description of this video. I'll end there. I hope you've benefited and you've enjoyed it as much as I've enjoyed making it for you. Please consider, subscribing. Spread the video if you like the message. Let other people see it. It's not always about how charismatic the messenger is, the person, not the messenger, small m, the deliverer, the one who brings you this reminder. It's not always about being Mr. Character or personality, but it is about the message. At the end of the day, those people who are looking for charisma and personality, they will go to the Mufti Mengs and to all these people who've sold their souls to the Arabs, to the Israelis, to the Zionists, and we know what we are. We know where we're going, and we are jealously guarding that path on which we are. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.